Good evening and welcome to the Inside Track. I'm your host, Gary Sussman. Joining me later on in the broadcast this evening will be one of the leading drivers at Monticello Raceway, Mr. Joe Ricco Jr., and the Director of Publicity at the Mighty M, Mr. John Manzi. Now, as you turn to this station tonight, you're probably wondering, what is the Inside Track program? What am I going to be watching? Let me try to answer those questions for you. First of all, the Inside Track is a new venture on the part of the management of Monticello Raceway into the use of cable television. And it sets a precedent not only for harness tracks in New York and the Northeast, but possibly the entire country as well. Now, the concept of the show is quite simple. A 30-minute talk show based on the sport of harness racing in general and Monticello Raceway in particular. Now, just as basketball, baseball, and football are sports, so is harness racing a sport. Now, the show is not about betting, and it's not about gambling. It's intended to be an informative, educational look at the sport of harness racing, and hopefully will provide insights into the sport so that when you come out to the track the next time, you'll be better able to understand what is taking place. The show is broken up into 4 basic segments. First of all, the week in review. We'll take a look back. Second, on the personality profile, we'll talk to one of the leading drivers at Monticello Raceway. Third, we'll discuss past and upcoming promotions. And fourth, we'll involve you, the viewing public, and a chance to win dinner for 2 at the Mighty M. Also included in the program are some very interesting and amusing track topics provided by the Harness Tracks of America. So there in condensed form is what the Inside Track is all about. And now that I've gotten through with the basics, let's go into some of the particulars. First of all, the week in review, which in this case is the first 3 weeks of winter racing for 1980 at the Mighty M. Now, as you can see on your screen, we've been racing for 12 racing dates. We started on November 14th and we'll end on January 4th. The average attendance for the meet so far, 1,803. The average handle, 186,605. Now, I've broken down that average handle in attendance into the corresponding weekends. The opening weekend, the average attendance, 2,240. The average handle, 205,330. Now, you'll notice a slight drop-off in the second weekend. Average attendance, 1,877. The average handle, 198,930. But the past weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, a slight increase. The average attendance, 2,027. The average handle, 218,015. Now, we've raced 3 weekdays during the first 12 days. The average attendance, 1,063. The average handle, 124,110. Not as good as the weekends, not expected to be as good as the weekend racing days. Now, the best night was opening night attendance-wise. November 14th, 2,442 patrons came to Monticello Raceway. And the best handle was Sunday afternoon, November 30th, this past Sunday, the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. The handle, $260,947. Now, the top drivers so far for the first half of the 1980 winter meet, John Gilmore leading in dash wins, which means he has driven the most winners so far in the first 3 weeks, 13 including 3 hat tricks, which means on 3 separate occasions, he has had 3 winners for a racing car. The top percentage drivers, Bobby Petito at 451, Jerry Fiorino at 437, and Ed Hart at 400. Now, John Gilmore was also the leading dash winner for the summer meet, while Maurice Bergeron was the leading percentage driver for the summer meet. He is now in 4th place for the 1980 winter meet. Now, one figure that I should mention, and probably the most significant figure of all, is the tax credit legislation recently signed by Governor Carey, tax credit legislation which will enable Monticello Raceway to race for the next 3 summers and winters. That is through 1982. That legislation was signed this past Sunday by Governor Carey. So there, in short form, is the week in review. Now on the Inside Track, I'd like to present some very interesting and amusing track topics presented by the Harness Tracks of America and hosted by Walter Roberts and Bruce Paisley, or rather Bruce Roberts and Walter Paisley. They don't know the difference either. Let's hear now from Bruce Roberts.
Bruce Roberts here for the Harness Tracks of America. So that you might better understand harness racing, we have prevailed upon one of America's leading driver trainers, Walter Paisley, to join us and describe an item of equipment that is used extensively in the sport. It is a head pole. Walter, just what is a head pole?
A head pole is a piece of equipment used, Bruce, to keep a horse going straight down the racetrack.
Would you demonstrate?
Sure. Now, if a horse would be bearing in towards the rail, he would have his head turned to the right. So therefore, you would put the head pole on the left side, like this.
That.
And then when the horse is bearing in towards the right, you get leverage, and you can pull him out away from it. And it would work just the opposite if he was bearing out. Then you would, on the other side, you would put the head pole.
All right, that's the correct definition of the term head pole. But here is how the fans define it. Head pole.
Barbershop.
Head pole, telephone pole.
A lamb?
Well, the last turn marker is a head pole.
Yeah.
You're wrong. What's a head pole?
A tadpole's brother.
A motor vehicle?
What's a head pole?
Head pole. La cabeza en poste.
Head pole is an instrument that you use so that a horse's head does not veer out one way or another and keep him going straight.
Head of a bed.
Oh, when the guy get out front, he can win the race, he hold the horse back, you know, pulling head, you know.
A hood.
A head pole? Well, is that the type of pole they used to climb?
Something you hit your head on.
A head pole? Yeah. That sounds like a fish.
Head pole? Bed rail.
I don't know.
Well, we hope you do. And that you'll join us again for another informative look at the sport of harness racing.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you, Walter. And even though I didn't get their names right the first time, they will be back later on in the program to inform us about some more things that very few people know anything about. It's time now for the personality profile on the Inside Track. My guest is 26 years old. He now resides in Monticello. He's originally from New York City. In the 1978 summer meet, he was the leading dash driver at Monticello Raceway with 114 wins. In the winter meet of that same year, he tied for the lead with 14 wins. This past season, 1980, he was the second leading percentage driver and the third leading dash driver. 3 of his horses hold track records at Monticello Raceway. In the pacing category, the fastest 2-year-old filly. In the trotting category, the fastest 4-year-old gelding and the fastest age mare. Please welcome Mr. Joe Ricco Jr. to the Inside Track. Joe, welcome to television.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You were the first guest on the radio version of the Inside Track many months ago. Joe, we're now in the 3rd week or entering the 4th week of the winter meet. What's the difference between racing in the summer and racing in the winter?
Well, there's a difference mainly is the weather, of course, and it's a little tough on the driver because of the cold weather. Your hands, you get a chill, and it's a little tough on the horse because you mainly got the wind. Now, when a horse has got to fight the wind, some horses will fight it, some won't. That's the big factor.
Now, some people don't know, horses, though, are cold weather animals.
Yeah. In other words, all horses are pretty much like any other animal. They grow hair. You know, if it gets cold out, they'll grow hair, and they can stand the cold. The only thing is, a horse that's running at Monticello, you know, is going 30 miles an hour. They're getting a lot of cold air into their lungs, and it's kind of hard, especially when you got to run and then fight that headwind.
Now, what about the slower times during the winter meet? There seems to be more slower times than during the summer. Is that a natural progression of the racetrack?
2 factors. 1, you have the wind, and 2, the cold air going into the lungs.
Now, speaking of times, we're going to take a look at 2 of the highlight races from the past 2 years, those being Classic 6 and Classic 5, which are the pinnacle of racing at Monticello Raceway for the summer seasons. Now, let's set up Classic 6, which last year featured Tyler B. Tyler B., the favorite, driven by Billy Herman, had the post position. How did you view the race before it got underway?
Well, before the race, I picked my first choice was Tyler B., but my second choice, I also thought he had a crack at winning it, was Secret Service because of the post positions. I think a race like that is mainly determined on 1, the horse, 2, the driver, and 3, a big factor is a post position. You have to have post position.
Now, when you were looking at the lineup of that race before it got underway, how did you think Tyler B. could be beaten? What would have to happen for Tyler B. to lose that race?
Well, the way I read it is if Tyler B. left, which he did, Secret Service having a 9-hole, and as you know, on a half-mile track, if they race 10 horses across, 10 horse in a race, they will have the 9-horse would go around behind the 1, the 10-horse would go behind the 2. So the 9-horse in this case was Secret Service. And I thought that Tyler B would leave, Secret Service would be right behind him, follow him the whole mile, and if he got any racing room coming through the stretch, had a crack at beating him.
Okay, so that's the Classic 6, $317,000 purse money in this Classic. So let's set the time. August 3rd, 1980, the 7th race. Let's go to the Classic 6.
They're all fan pacing. Denali going for the lead. Rebel fell to the outside. Filibuster between horses with Tyler B. Happy Tidal Wave in the outside. Going into the first.
Okay, Joey, tell us what's happening. What is Tyler B and Billy Herman? What is he trying to do?
Well, right now you got Tyler B that's on top only by a neck right now on the inside with Billy Herman. And the key factor in here that I didn't expect before the race was Norman Duplass leaving with Filibuster that strongly. Now, he right now is forcing Tyler B to push to the quarter. And Secret Service, like I figured, was in the 2-hole, getting a good trip. I did not figure that Billy Herman would let Filibuster go at this point, taking the chance of getting boxed in, but he did so, and it happened to be a winning move for him.
In other words, that was a gamble at that point.
That was a gamble, but it turned out to be a winning move and a super move at this point.
Now here we see Tyler B
coming back to regain the lead.
coming back.
Now puts Filibuster in the 2-hole and puts Secret Service in the 3-hole, who gets his way out right now. Now Secret Service is third on the outside.
Now does Tyler B look strong at this point?
Tyler B looks very strong right now. And Secret Service, I would say, looks strong right now, but here comes a late bid from Carmine Abatello driving Happy Tidal Wave.
That's the horse on the outside.
On the far outside, extreme outside. Now you'll see Secret Service trying to get out to follow Carmine Abatello. But right now the strong horse, the two strong horses, looks like Happy Tidal Wave on the outside and Tyler B on the inside. Happy Tidal Wave now shows where Carmine Abatello is urging him pretty strongly and cannot reach up to the leader because the turn is coming up and he's backed off a little bit.
And Tyler B maintains the post position.
Yes, and starts to draw away.
Now we're entering the stretch call. Let's turn it over to Jerry Glantz for that stretch call.
Carmine on the outside with Happy Tidal Wave. Tyler B in front and drawing away from Happy Tidal Wave. Tyler B wins the Classic.
And there we have it. The Classic 6, won by Tyler B, 158.2. A good trip for Tyler B?
Very good. Very impressive trip. Very
Okay.
much so. And I thought Happy Tidal Wave did throw in a very good shot at him. He did.
A well-driven race?
Very well driven. I thought Carmine Abatello drove the race super. He had finished second behind Happy Tidal Wave, a horse that really did not catch the public's eye. Tyler B, Billy Herman, I thought drove very good. He took a gamble at the 3/8 pole. It turned out to be the right thing.
Okay, let's go back in our time warp now to 1979 and the Classic 5. Tijuana Taxi, Happy Motoring. This Classic has been called by some the best Classic ever. What did you think before this race?
Well, I don't want to leave the lady out, Happy Sharon.
Never leave the ladies out. What was your perception of this race before it went off?
Before it went off, I took Tijuana Taxi, to be honest with you, and I really thought Tijuana Taxi would be the tough horse in there. I thought he'd go to the top and just never look back, just keep on going.
Now, for people who, of course, have not seen this race, this is the Classic horse race. A horse, Tijuana Taxi, having the lead for almost the entire race, or at least the first 3 quarters, and then Happy Motoring coming on strong to win almost at the wire.
Yes, I think Happy Motoring showed a super race. He showed how much effort he put in there to win and determination to win a race. And I think that a good round of applause goes to the driver, Billy Popfinger. I think he kept his horse alive. He drove very well. His horse had a tough trip, and he made the best of it.
Okay, enough talking about the Classic 5. Let's go back in time. August 5th, 1980, the 7th race, and the Classic 5.
They're all fan pacing. Most Happy Collins going for the lead. Tijuana Taxi on the outside with Set Point. Happy Sharon at the rail. Going into the first turn, Most Happy Collins has the lead.
Okay, Joey, Classic 5, Tijuana Taxi and Jim Miller. What's taking place?
Well, right now, Tijuana Taxi leaves out of there, and also on the rail is Most Happy Collins. Most Happy Collins lets Tijuana Taxi go pretty easy, and Tijuana Taxi has got his own way all the time to this point. And you got on the outside Happy Motoring. If you can see him now, about 6th on the outside. Now, if you notice, Billy Popfinger is not really rushing him up to the leader. He's just inching his way up there, biding his time, and just getting his horse comfortable and set.
Is that a good game plan?
I think
Happy Motoring?
I think so, very much so.
Now, Tijuana Taxi maintains the lead around the first half mile. Is Jim Miller pleased at this point?
I don't know personally, but I would say yes, he'd have to be very much so pleased right now.
Now, what is Billy Popfinger and Happy Motoring trying to do?
Billy Popfinger, if you notice a little bit into this turn here, he'll start to urge Happy Motoring up towards the lead horses. Up until this point, he hasn't urged the horse. He's been sitting on the outside. Now he starts to urge his horse, try to get up to the leader, try to put him in contention, and try to win the race, which he ends up doing.
Tijuana Taxi, is Jim Miller looking over his shoulder at this point?
I think he's urging his horse now. For this large sum of money, I don't think you're going to be looking over your shoulder too much. But the one thing I'd like to point out, fourth on the inside right now is a nice, super nice filly named Happy Sharon. And watch her get moving to the outside right now. She's fourth. Now she's to the outside. She gets the urge of the whip by Wally McElmurray. Now Wally McElmurray is coming on the outside, and you'll hear the race call from...
All right, let's go to Jerry Glantz right now.
On the outside, they come to the wire. Tijuana Taxi at the rail. Happy Motoring and Happy Sharon. That's Happy Motoring and Happy Sharon. Heads apart.
The classic horse race, Happy Motoring coming from behind to win at the wire.
I think it was just a super race. I think he's just a super, super horse.
And driven well.
Driven very well. And the lady did get a good break. She got a good trip, and that's what it shows in horse racing. If you get a little bit of luck and you get that good position, you can get a piece of the pie, and that's what happened with Happy Sharon, getting a piece of the pie.
And
Happy Motoring, just a super athlete.
And expert analysis, of course. Joe, what happens after the winter meet? What do you do with your horses after the winter meet?
Well, this year here, I bought quite a few young horses, yearlings, broke them. I'm going to end up taking them to a farm, training them there, teaching them how to become racehorses, and then a few other horses I have that are racing at Monticello right now in the high classes, I'm going to take them to the Meadowlands. Continued
success in the winter meet. We've done radio, we've done television. The next thing is movies.
Either movies, I was thinking about Broadway.
Joe Ricco Jr. Coming up next, the Professor, John Manzi. But first, Bruce and Walter with some more track topics. Here is Bruce Roberts.
Bruce Roberts here for the Harness Tracks of America. In order to enhance your understanding of harness racing, there are certain terms of the sport that you should be aware of. And to help us explain them to you, we have with us one of America's leading driver trainers, Walter Paisley. Walter, the term to be defined now is crouper. Just what is a crouper?
The crouper is the part, Bruce, that goes under the horse's tail, which connects to the complete harness to hold it in place.
Would you put it on for us, please?
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Right.
Again, what does it do?
It holds this in place from not sliding up and back when the horse is checked up or when he is hitched up.
And that is what a crouper is, right?
Right.
Not according to our fans. What's a crouper?
A brother to a fish. Haircut.
Oh, what's a crouper? Very easy.
A crouper? That may be easy to you, but not to me.
Guy that deals cards in Las Vegas.
What's crouper?
Gary.
Gary Crouper? I got it.
A bird.
Grouper is a term that's used for a horse that runs in the back of the pack.
You're pretty close, but you're wrong.
Oh, wow.
What's a crouper?
A fish.
You're wrong.
A fish.
You're wrong.
A fish.
You're wrong. You're wrong. Well, let's face it, you can't be right all the time. And that's our look at harness racing for today. Hope you'll join us again soon for more of the same.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you, Walter, the dynamic duo, once again telling us everything we want to know about harness racing, but we're afraid to ask. And it seems not too many people want to ask from that bit of tape. Thanks, Bruce, and thanks, Walter. Now, it is my pleasure on the inside track to welcome to the studio my associate at Monticello Raceway, the Director of Public Relations, the professor himself, Mr. John Manzi. Professor, first radio, now the big-time television. Can you believe it?
How about this, Seth?
And since you are the professor, let me first of all correct two things from the previous segment. First of all, the Classic 5 was not run in the same year as the Classic 6, 1980. It was run in 1979, correct?
That's right.
And of course, we didn't give any credit to Jerry Glantz, who was the track announcer. Now, you are the Director of Public Relations and Publicity, in case you've forgotten. What's the difference between public relations and publicity as you see it?
The difference between public relation and publicity. Well, public relation is getting out in the field, seeing the people, shaking hands, sort of like a politician. And publicity is getting the word out about your product.
Now, when we're in the office, many people ask, do we work from January to April when the track is closed? But as we both know, there's many things that have to be done. What are the toughest things that you see in your experience at Monticello Raceway in putting together certain promotions and getting the word out about the raceway?
Well, the toughest thing is to get the word out, depending on the promotion that you do have. If you have a commercial-oriented promotion, it's hard to get the word out unless you buy advertisement. But when you have newsworthy stuff, that kind of stuff can get printed. So to get the word out is kind of a tough thing depending on what you use.
And of course, certain newspapers and newspaper people and certain radio stations and radio people and television like to use certain things. And if you don't get them that product, you might not get on the air or get in the newspaper.
That's true. Unfortunately for us, bad news always seems to be newsworthy. I know last year we made national television with an accident, and Joe Ricco was in one of those accidents, and we were all over the United States with that, and that to me is bad news, but that's what the media seems to like to have.
Now we're going to talk about some past promotions from the summer of 1980 at Monticello Raceway. The first one is the bike race. Now, what were your thoughts in putting together the bike race? What genius came upon you, say, let's have a bike race?
Well, we had some bikes to give away from the radio station, and we figured it would be an unusual effect. We did go with the elephant race, so we figured we'd come back with a bike race, and we'd have some drivers race the bikes against some disc jockeys in a radio station, and the fans would be the winner. At the end of the night, we would give away all the bikes.
Now, looking back, was the promotion a good one? Was it a bad one? How did it rate in your all-time guide of promotion?
Well, I wouldn't make it the best in the world. It did definitely help, like all our promotions did. This year we were up a little bit on every night, so it was hard to tell the impact that each promotion had.
Okay, that's the bike race. Let's now go back and take a look at this famous bike race from the summer of 1980.
Looks like a standing start. They're off. Gary Messenger losing the pedals, but off to a quick early lead over Jim Simonetti. And 3.5 lengths back to Rich Ball. Going into the paddock turn, Jim Simonetti is rallied at the rail. On the outside, Gary Messenger just coasting, waiting for Rich Ball some 4 bicycle lanes back. Midway into the turn, Jim Simonetti has the lead. Gary Messenger struggling on the outside, now picks it up. Messenger is going to give the big kick on the outside. Gary Messenger takes the lead from Jim Simonetti. Rich Ball can see them all. Gary Messenger has the lead. Jim Simonetti coming back at the rail. Messenger on the outside, Simonetti at the rail. Jim Simonetti coming on.
And Professor, one of your classic bike races instead of a horse race.
Yeah, the fans were a winner then. We gave those nice 10-speed bikes away that night from our good friend Bob Outer from WBNR Radio.
Now that was a bike race. We now have a race of a different kind. One of the top promotions of the summer meet of 1980, Beasley versus the horse. Briefly, give us the setup of this very unusual promotion.
This was unusual, Suss. Beasley Reese, the strong safety for the New York Giants, was racing in a 110-yard dash against the losingest horse in the history of harness racing. That's Super Chris. Super Chris had not won a race and still hasn't won a race. He's 0 for 84. He's been some find this year for us here at Monticello Raceway. We've got a lot of publicity with this. With this tape here you're going to see, we were on New York TV. Warner Wolf was there. He presented the trophy to the winner. And in case you didn't see it, I'm not going to tell you who the winner was.
And of course, if people don't know, this horse and this race were just recently in Inside Sports magazine.
Right, that's right. This December issue of Inside Sports, a national magazine.
So quite a lot of publicity around the country from Beasley versus the horse.
Plus the national magazine Hoofbeats, the voice of the United States Trotting Association, also a big spread on Super Chris.
So there you have it, Beasley versus Super Chris. Let's go to the race.
As you see here, Suss, some claim that I held the horse. It's not true.
Looked like Beasley jumped the gun.
Jumped the gun. You say, oh, I threw the flag. He jumped the gun. It wasn't much of a race from then on.
And
was
there it
all
is.
The bees.
That's all she
He
wrote.
took it home.
The best New York Giant finish of the year.
Ever.
Can you believe it?
He should run like that with the ball.
Beasley versus the horse. Now that was a human against an animal. Our next promotion, quickly, two animals racing against each other.
It was the biggest we ever had at Monticello Raceway.
The biggest promotion or the biggest animals?
Well, both. We had two big elephants, and Joe Ricco, one of the drivers, was riding. He was riding the elephant Nellie, and unfortunately he finished second.
And that is the setup for our elephant race.
May 25th.
May 25th. Let's go to the elephant race.
Our starting judge for the Elephantonian is John Manzi. We'll give the go signal.
Okay, here we are, Professor. Monticello Raceway last
This
year,
is a
Memorial
wild
Day
one, yeah.
weekend.
Joey Ricco on the inside, Messenger on the outside. That's Messenger on the right of your screen.
Did Barnum and Bailey want rights to this? Or
They get their last-minute check now. They're seeing that they have no...
drivers are talking to each other, wishing each other luck and
good
prayers.
luck. They're saying their prayers now.
And here they go.
Ricco's on the inside. Messenger holding on for dear life. I don't blame him.
Can you believe
the elephants
this?
are making noise now. Oh, Messenger cuts him off.
How high up are they?
Ricco's claiming foul right now. They're about 9 feet in the air. Joey comes back. He wants to come back on the other side, but look what happens. Here's the photo. We're coming to the wire. Ricco thinks he's going to win it. It's by a trunk.
And a tusk.
And it is Gary Messenger.
Can you believe this?
Unreal.
And
That's it.
What a
How about
great,
that?
what a
Was that
great
a wild
publicity
one?
stunt. Plus, we
Was
got
the best
plenty
ever.
of play out of this in the papers in Holland, in Spain. This was on wire photos throughout the United States
All
and
over.
internationally.
Right, I think even the elephant race made the wire services, or the network TV, I should say.
What a great stunt, even though
It really put...
Barnum and Bailey might have wanted some of the action.
It was a great one for us.
Now, those were some of the past promotions. Let's quickly run over some of the upcoming promotions that we have at
Well,
the
this
raceway.
coming Saturday, Suss, we have wine tasting day from the Brotherhood Winery.
Sunday.
This coming Sunday.
That's
Did I
why
say Saturday?
you're the professor.
Did I say Saturday?
You did.
I meant Sunday.
It's
I'm sorry.
Sunday.
Sunday we have wine tasting day, free wine for everybody, sampling 10 fine wines from Brotherhood.
And?
And next Sunday, the 14th.
What an ice scraper here.
How about this? Everybody gets an ice scraper.
Hold that up.
Look at a
Free
very,
ice scraper.
Very nice ice scraper. Could scrape ice off in Alaska. This
Heavy.
is a very heavy-duty quality ice scraper. First 4,000 paying fans will get an ice scraper on December 14th. That's Sunday, December 14th.
So those are some of the promotions. And now we're going to give you a chance to win dinner for two for $25 at the Mighty M. The professor, and I call him the professor because of his vast knowledge of harness racing, has not one, but two
questions.
trivia questions
Here we go.
that you can write in and answer. Go ahead.
Where should they write to?
They should write to the inside track care of Monticello Raceway.
Okay, the inside track. The first question, who was the first horse ever to pace a mile in 2 minutes or better at Monticello Raceway?
And the reason that we have that is because Monticello Raceway is the world's fastest half-mile track.
Now we have to name the horse and the driver.
And question number two.
Question number two, who holds the world's trotting record? Who holds the existing mark, the world's trotting record? A hint, two horses co-hold this record.
John Manzi was the driver in one of them.
No, he wasn't.
Wrong.
No.
And the
One was this year, though. One horse tied another horse this year.
Now, to win dinner for two at Monticello Raceway, you write to the inside track, answer those questions, and the card or letter with the earliest postmark will be judged the winner.
And
so you must get
two,
them in.
Dinner for two at our lovely dining room.
Ichabod
Not
Crane
this
Terrace.
year, next year, next spring.
But you will get that
You
dinner.
will definitely get it.
Professor, thank you very much
Okay, Suss.
for gracing the television studio.
It's fun. It's fun.
And from now, we'll join Joey in the movies or on Broadway.
Okay, he's going to Broadway.
He's going to Broadway. I'd like to thank my guests, Mr. Joe Ricco Jr. and John Manzi, the Director of Publicity at Monticello Raceway, for joining me on today's show, or tonight's show, and thank you all very much for watching. This has been The Inside Track. I'm Gary Sussman.
Meet you at Monticello, great racing at Monticello, the world's very fastest half-mile track, that's Monticello Raceway. Meet you at